Welcome to the Revolution Church podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Revolution. If you are on YouTube joining us live right now, thank you. Don't forget to like and follow. We every now and then throw up a few surprise videos through the week when I get the chance. If you're listening on a podcast, welcome wherever you are, jogging, running, doing your thing. If you think of it, you can get a chance to rate the podcast, the Revolution Church, and give us 5 stars. Or if you want to be honest, and give us 7. But I think it's only 5. You can do that. What else? Yeah, so welcome to Revolution, everybody. I would start off with saying today's a somber conversation, but I feel like we're always having kind of somber conversations. So, we deal with life on life's terms as we can here and at this gathering. So that's what we do. I wanted to start out today with a few quotes. One of my favorite quotes that's impacted my life is from Martin Luther King Jr. And it says, "It's not the words of our enemies we will remember." Hello, Chuck and Linda. "It's not the words of our enemies we will remember, but the silence of our friends." And, it's a truth. It's one of those truths that's always caused me to speak out on behalf of others. And I mean, even when people talk about my friends online, sometimes I'll start arguing with them, arguing with people defending my friends. But sometimes we need each other, we need to support each other, and be there for one another. And I think it's also very important that we think of that for groups that are being marginalized or being treated less than or having their rights threatened. So today, I want to talk about Palestine and Gaza and that. I think it's worth us having a deeper conversation about what's going on here. I am not a political expert by any means. I know a little bit, but I'm going to look at it in a more of a theological way and more of a biblical way of what we should be doing with this horrific, what I believe to be genocide that's happening right now. So let's strap in if you're ready. And I want to share a quote from another one of my favorite, what do you call them even? Peacemakers, I think it would be the right word. One of my favorite peacemakers from Northern Ireland, John Hume. He says, "All conflict is about difference, whether its difference is race, religion, or nationality." He goes on to say, "Difference is the essence of humanity. Difference is an accident of birth, and it should therefore never be the source of hatred and conflict." One more time, I'll read that. "All conflict is about difference, whether the difference is race, religion, or nationality. Difference is the essence of humanity. Difference is an accident of birth, and it should therefore never be the source of hatred and conflict." Those are very true words from a wonderful peacemaker. That is one of the reasons we always speak about disagreeing well and arguing well and all that stuff, and trying to create a community that is diverse, not just of religion and nationality and race, but also of thought. It's important that people who think differently are able to communicate with one another. I think there's a lot of ideas and ways that we can do that in the future. And I think a lot of it comes from holding politicians and leaders accountable, believe it or not, because I think the better our life is, and I'm not even, I mean, the basic needs that are met for people, I think, in their lives are more able to argue rationally rather than have to live in fear of things like medical bills or going hungry or skipping meals and things like that, which I believe the last number was like 40% of Americans are like one medical crisis away from being in complete debt and homeless, and also about that number of people are skipping meals. A lot of folks are donating blood and things like that. So the world's in a bit of a bad place, and the United States is in a really crappy place as well. So I asked the question today, what is grace without peace? But also, what is peace without justice? Grace has always been the main message for me, but I realize that grace lives in hope, it lives in faith, it lives in peace, it lives in justice. And so it's important to remind ourselves of those things. I'm going to start today in Matthew 5. Matthew 5:21. This is part of the Jesus, the Beatitudes, which I know we lefties love. But listen to this, 21. You have heard that it said, those ancient times, you shall not murder, and whoever murders shall be liable to judgment. But I say to you that if you are angry with a brother or sister, you will be liable to judgment. And if you insult a brother and sister, you will be liable to the council. And if you say, you fool, you will be liable to the hell, to the hell, not just a hell, but of fire. So when you are offering your gift at the altar, pre-death of Christ here, pre-new covenant, I guess Jesus is saying it. If you remember that your brother and sister has something against you, leave that gift there before you altar and go first to reconcile with that brother and sister, and then come offer your gift. Come to terms quickly with your accuser while you are on the way to court with him, or your accuser may hand over the judge of the judgment, and guard you will be the... Anyway, the point is, try to solve your problems. Try to face the problems. It's not just murder that's bad, but it's, if you're angry with someone, you have dissent, saying take care of it the best you can. One of the reasons I wanted to read that was because, everything that's going on in the world right now is so horrific. Especially what's happening in Gaza right now. And I saw a video yesterday, and I posted it up in the Revolution Stories on the Instagram so you can see it. But this is one of those moments, one of those moments where you just go, oh God, I can't be quiet about this. It's burning my soul. I mean, I can't. It's hard to unsee these things, and maybe we shouldn't unsee these things. But it was in Gaza, and it was in the hospital, and it was a little girl, probably around 3 years old, and her brother probably around 5 at the most, laying in a hospital, covered in blood, all scarred up. And the little girl kept reaching her arm out because she couldn't open her eyes. Her eyes were swollen shut, and so she kept touching to see if her brother was there, just to kind of have some hope and just she couldn't see, so she just put her hand out and kept just patting him there. And it reminded me of my daughter when she was around that age, and how at night she would, if she got scared and we slept there with us, she would pat me on the back and then rub me, just kind of, are you there, Daddy? So, of course, cue the loud guy laughing outside the window for that moment. And we see this type of thing every day, and sometimes we ignore it, or we see the warning, don't click on this type of message, and we just pass it by because it's easier to ignore and not think about it and go on as life as usual. I mean, obviously that's a coping mechanism that we have to survive. But the reality is something really, really horrific is happening, and we are playing a part of it. And when I say we, I speak as an American, is that my tax dollars and your tax dollars, we just sent $20 million to the Israeli government so they can purchase more bombs and continue to go to war, as they keep saying. And I understand that war is some sort of necessary evil. I hope we would outgrow it one day. But it's just all the innocent women and children and men, women, and children who are dying, and families, whole families are wiped out. And these little kids who are now amputees or blind or can't see or no longer have a family. It feels like me, if we're going to subscribe to a religion like Christianity, where we're supposed to love the other and care for the other and even love our enemies as ourselves, that this is a no-brainer, that this is something that we should be talking about and we should be taking the lead. I don't see many Christians taking the lead. I see a few talking about it, but honestly, I'm pretty late at this, and a lot of us are late at this, and that's unfortunate. Often we want to make sure we have make sure that we have the right information. But still, it's just, you can't deny this, and I'm pretty broken up about it, and it feels a bit powerless, especially in this election year, to see how many people who seem to be, and rightfully so. I understand that people are afraid of what's going to happen with their lives and stuff in this election year, and everybody keeps talking about the lesser of two evils. But when genocide is part of either one of those evils, I just don't know how we take genocide and move that aside, and how we are able to compromise that. So many of us, I think, we look back and think, well, if I was born, during World War II, and I would have spoken up. I would have said something. We would have, whatever, fought against the Holocaust. We always talk about how horrible the Holocaust is and how evil, that was. And now we're living in a time where we're seeing something happen, not in the exact way, but in a very similar way. And we're seeing kids and children and adults and people's lives torn apart. We're seeing cities completely turned to rubble in the ground, and we're part of it. And I feel like our country has failed us, and America that I believe in is not that anymore. And or maybe it's just that the blinders are being taken off. It's now that we can see more, with more things going on in the world, with the videos and the online and social media. Let's continue, shall we? In Matthew 43, and you've heard me say this many times, you have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be children of your Father in heaven. For he makes the sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends the rain on the righteous and on the unrighteous. For if you love only those who love you, what reward have you? Do not even tax collectors do the same? You got to make this clear. This is not being like, oh, I'm anti-Israel, or I'm anti, it's like, if this was anybody else doing this to Israel, I would say we have to speak up. We have to be loud. We have to make our voices. It's the fact that these are precious human lives, and that those are also our children. I mean, I see little kids, these kids, my kids' age, without clothes, sleeping on the streets, sleeping next to a pile of rubble, you know, not knowing where their family is, starving to death. Um, it's it's complete horror. And to see how the politicians, to see the politicians barely speak about it, and that we're having to push and beg and yell and scream and make our politicians look bad in order to make them speak up for this. I think it says a lot about the human nature of politics and what's happening to people in the political world. And I'm sure there's reasons we need to keep a strong hold in the Middle East, and we need to, trying to keep the world safe. America and the UK are the world's police. But at the same time, um, not creating an arms embargo, not demanding that this cease and stop right away, not doing more to make peace possible, trying to find a way to maybe even install leadership that is a two-state system. I mean, those are all ideals, and I know that Rome wasn't built in the day, but to send $20 million in support of the people who are doing these murders, to me, is an atrocity. And knowing that that's like when we go out and we purchase things, when we pay our taxes, we're paying for that. I mean, that's the fact, is that the blood is on the hands of America. What I'm hoping is not to make you feel guilty or feel bad, but what I'm hoping is that it continues, that we just are able to honestly speak of this and put it out there and hear it and say it, and just get more conversation continuing to happen. And that, this weekend I was trying to find a protest in town to go to. I felt like I needed to do something, and there wasn't one in the city. And I was like, oh, if I knew people, I could start one. But I just feel like to be silent right now is a betrayal to our brothers and sisters, those men and women and children who are losing their lives every day, and who are living in literally a literal hell of a life. And if you don't think that, what's going to happen in 20 years time to those people, and their, the psychology that does to people, the mental wear it does to humanity. All right, so we'll continue. Matthew 18. We're in Matthew a lot today. Matthew 18:10. And I felt like this is a verse that's been running through my brain the past few days, especially after I saw that brother and sister in the hospital. And that little girl so afraid that her brother, just the only, like, it was like she was at peace as soon as she touched her brother, and her brother has air tubes going into him. She's but just that small amount of comfort that a loved one can bring. Matthew 10. No, it's not Matthew 10. It's Matthew 18:10. Take care that you do not despise one of these little ones, for I tell you, in heaven their angels continually see the face of my Father in heaven. And it's interesting because Jesus uses this parable of the lost sheep to talk about the little ones. What do you think? If a shepherd has 100 sheep and one of them has gone astray, does he not leave the 99 in the mountain and go in search of that one that went astray? And if he finds it, he truly, I tell you, they rejoice over more than over a 99 that never went astray. So it is not the will of your Father in heaven that one of these little ones should be lost. And I think about how often we just try to put this horror out of our minds so we can go on with an election and we can have arguments and try to treat business as usual. But it's just, this is not business as usual. I know this might seem like it's too much to bear, but I'm asking us all that we've got to carry this together. We've got to, speak of it when we can. I've seen people say, like, can we just focus this on until after the election? But I just don't think those people in Gaza can wait. They just can't wait. So I just can't be silent on this. I think these are our family. In these parables and these stories, Jesus says in 18, 6, he goes, if any of you put a stumbling block before one of these little ones who believe in me, it would be better for you if a great milestone were fastened around your neck and you were drowned in the depths of the sea. So if this is just leading kids, so this is not destroying them and killing them and robbing them of their families and their sanity. So if this is the response that Christ has towards people who are led astray, just little children who are led astray, imagine what should be our response. What does Christ call us to? Some of you I know who attend religion, well, I'm not a Christian, blah, blah, and you probably actually might be doing more right now, to be honest with you. But I just think if we want to honestly say, well, I follow Jesus, I'm a follower of Jesus, I'm not comfortable with Christian, but I'm a follower of Jesus. Well, if we're a follower of Jesus, then we must speak out about the innocent, the life of the lost innocent ones everywhere. Now, this is happening all over the world, so we're not probably focused on everything, but we can become more educated. We can learn what's happening in the world and find out and speak out about this. I'm not saying this is everyone's purpose, but right now we are faced with innocent deaths of genocide happening in front of us every single day. And the question is, what will you do? What will you say? Will you speak up? I've seen so many, like, people, oh yeah, I'm hip to it. Like, what would you have done in the 60s? Oh, nothing. And they have these bumper stickers and stuff. And well, what you're doing now, and that's nothing. All this kind of like, we like to show off how progressive and we think, but but at the same time, there's so much silence happening. There's not very much talk about this, and there is talk, but it just doesn't seem like we're going anywhere. I'm seeing people in my own community, like we talked about this, I think last week, is how I said, I often critique the progressives and the liberals because that's more of the side I'm familiar with and why I'm on. I don't, if I just Monday quarterback, or I don't know, I don't like football, so I don't know if it's Monday quarterback or Tuesday quarterback, but whatever. After the fact, you say what they should have done. I think every pro-life Christian in the world, they should be screaming and crying out and protesting, so I've often felt there's some hypocrisy there. But I'm surprised by how many people in the progressive church and people I've worked with in social justice work and things like that who don't want to talk about this because they're afraid it's going to hurt a candidate because they're afraid of Donald Trump. And for me, I'm going like, so this is what we do. We kind of have to just try to ignore evil and, maybe not speak about it too much and not demand that we be heard because we don't want to screw up the fact that we might probably have better health care and better rights under one person rather than the other. And so the innocent people have to die. So we'll just, post something on Instagram and it'll be done. And that's not Christianity. People always say, well, you preach grace, so that means you don't do anything. No, it means you speak up about injustice. This is dying to your flesh. You're like, I didn't want to get up this morning. I don't want to be talking about this stuff. I'd prefer that this stuff did not exist at all. But it's weighing so heavy on my conscience that I can't do no other. I have to speak up. It's pretty great because I can watch the numbers drop from this talk up in the corner. And I'm sure they're just going to get a drink of water or something like that. That Josh always tells me that's how it works. And of course, you can come back and listen anytime. But I'm just saying, like, this is, we're in it. What are we doing about this injustice? Will we be silent? Will we worry about ourselves more than those that we don't know or we can't see or that are far away? We see them. If you can tell, I am uncomfortable. I'm heartbroken, and I don't really have the words. I don't feel like there's any words to justify or try to encourage people. I just feel like we should be yelling from the streets that there should be an arms embargo, because obviously we can't force a ceasefire, but we could maybe not pay for the weapons that are destroying people's lives and homes and everything, minds, spirit, completely crushed. And it's just strange that we live in a country that's more concerned in that than it is with its own people who are poor. I mean, people say, well, I'm concerned, I want this to happen. But, we've had a Democrat for 4 years. It's not much has changed. So, not for the poor, at least, It's hard not to get lost in all this. I'm going to jump over to Matthew 25. I did not sleep at all last night. I kept thinking about this talk all night long. I try not, like, I usually just don't think about talks. Like, I get them worked out, write them down, and I don't do it. And like last night, I couldn't even get up this morning. Barely, because I was like up for like 3 in the morning. I just like could not calm my mind, and I didn't want to take anything to sleep because I didn't want to oversleep. Matthew 25:40. Okay, let me try to get to where we're going here, folks. Truly, okay, here we go. 40 says, and the king will answer them, truly I tell you, just as you did, this is another parable, you did it to one of the least of these, who are members of my family, you did to me. Then he will say to those he left at his left hand, you that are accused, depart from me into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me no food. I was thirsty, and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, and you did not welcome me. Naked, and you did not give me clothes. Sick and in prison, and you did not visit me. They will answer, Lord, when is it that we saw you hungry, thirsty, or a stranger, or naked, or sick, or in prison, and we did not take care of you? Truly I tell you, just as you did not do to one of the least of these, you did it not unto me. So those are the, simple reminders. You don't have to be a theologian to kind of be able to understand what's being said here. How we treat the least of these, and these are children, and so many of us have children these age in these families, and I think we know what it's like to live in broken families. I see so many people who talk every day about how hurt they are by their family over politics or over their sexuality or over different things like that, and then we see these folks who right now are the least of these. They don't have anything. As a matter of fact, they have our government working against them every day. That is something to should cause us to have deep reflection on, do we really believe this stuff? Or is this just a tradition we're passing on, and we're just trying to make it a little bit hipper and cooler to bring the cool Christians around, and more, now we have a cool, hip, liberal Christian church to hang out with, Is that what we're doing? I mean, are we really genuinely trying to follow these words? And, we at this point, we have no place to judge the other. This is why we've got to disagree well with the others, because we don't have any place to judge the others and say, you're hypocrites. We're all kind of like stuck in this situation, not knowing what to do. But this is what I do, so I'm trying to do what I do with this the best I can. And I think that's what we've all got to do, is the best we can. Like I've always said before, it's progress, not perfection. But maybe it's making a phone call to a politician, maybe it's going to a protest, maybe it's doing this. I'm not saying these will stop it, but at least we continue to bring out the awareness that this is unacceptable. We should let these candidates know this is unacceptable for you to ignore these things and not talk about these things, and pass all these things. Well, I'm going to do this and this and this. Just stop killing these people first. Like, just this should be the main priority of our country, is trying to create at least an arms embargo, and we've done exactly the opposite of that. We have people starving on the streets, people who can't afford their health care, people who are one paycheck away from being homeless, people who are skipping meals, and we're not putting $20 million towards that. We're not putting $20 million towards drug addiction, towards poverty, and towards working programs, or maybe raising the minimum wage. We're sending 20 billion. I keep saying million because billion seems like such an unreal number to me. 20 billion of our are going towards wars. Towards a war that's not really, doesn't seem like a war, it seems like a genocide. And you're more than welcome to disagree with me today. I mean, I'm not, you don't have to toe the line with me. You're always welcome to disagree. We're always going to disagree here. And you might have some things, some nuances that I'm missing. Honestly, like I said, I'm not a political expert. But I just want to bring up these scriptures to ask ourselves, are we following Christianity? Are we following Christ? Are we really subscribing to this message? And is this what we need? Do we need to have this kick us in the ass to kind of wake us up and remind us what drew us to this faith in the first place? Maybe it's just kind of become a dead faith where we've just been playing identity politics with one another and othering each other. And now it's saying, like, are you going to love the least of these? I mean, this is what should be bringing Christians together from every side, is when humanity is suffering, and literally we, it talks about hell in that verse, but we're literally seeing people in hell, and we're just going like, okay, well, we got to continue life as usual. And I don't feel like I can do that. Like, that's why I'm not sleeping. That's why these things wear on me, and I want to inspire us to be people of grace and people of mercy and people of compassion and people of change, and that we practice grace with peace, and that our peace has a form of justice within it, And right now we need peace to even start the justice process. We just need a dialogue to start. Now, I don't know what's going on in back rooms and everything like that, and I hope that tomorrow or the next day we hear something great announced, but until then, this is where my heart is, and so I just wanted to share that with you. In Ephesians, in Ephesians 6, it says, "For our struggle is not against enemies of blood and flesh, but against the rulers and against the authorities and against the cosmic powers of the present darkness, against the spiritual force of evil in the heavenly places." Now, one of the things I want to say is it's heavenly places, like a spiritual. So, I'm not a big pray person. I don't pray a lot, but sometimes I do pray. And I started praying for Gaza because I don't know what else to do. So I started praying for those people and those families, and for those in the government of the United States and Israel and the United Kingdom, that their hearts would be moved to work harder and faster for peace, and that we would all use what influence we have to foster this peace, so there can be justice, so we can help people. I guess arguing well, if that's our point, we want to do what we're trying to do is get these people to say, like, disagree, argue, but don't kill each other. It's the point is when you aren't able to argue well, when you aren't able to have conflict, what happens is what we see happening in front of us. So if you've ever wondered why I'm so passionate about us disagreeing well and arguing well and having conversations, is because without that negotiation, without that effort to find common ground, without the indifference, we just go straight to war, and that's straight to death. And I guess what I keep coming back to is the fact that we support that our country is supporting that so greatly. But I wanted to say, and I highlighted this part. It says, "For our struggle is not against enemies of blood and flesh, but against the rulers and against the authorities." You know, and in a way, it's saying like, it almost sounds like, if I'm going to take a theological look and step back a little bit on this, it's almost saying like something happens to us when we become an authority and ruler. It's like the rich young ruler. You know, it's like Jesus saying it's hard to reach these people. When people are in authority, when people have this power, there's corruption and there's compromise and there's so much going on. That these are the people we're going to have to speak. These are the people who we have to speak truth to. These are the people, for lack of better words, our struggle is against them. Our struggle is trying to convince them to do the right thing. That's the struggle, to speak loudly, to let your voices be heard. To make phone calls. I mean, some of you may have just been ignoring it completely, and maybe the only thing you can do is like, okay, I'm going to put something up on one of my social media things and ask people about it, get it talked about. I mean, the fact is, we saw Kamala Harris tell people to she was talking and to be quiet, and then everybody went crazy that she did that, and then 24 hours later, she's like, okay, let's talk about it. So what we're trying to do is force these folks to have this conversation, and I hope people will continue to do this on the right as well. It worries me. The silence is what really, really worries me, especially at this juncture when we've been seeing this almost a year of just the casualties of war, just thousands and thousands of casualties every day, and that we're supporting that our country is supporting that. I know it might sound like a broken record, but that's the thing. That's the struggle I'm having. This is why, it's like you see it and you're like, well, what can we do to make it stop? But then you go to realize, but we're also being the country that I spent my whole life in, grown and been a part of. That I'm an American, and we're literally putting billions of dollars towards the group that's doing this. Ephesians 6:15 says this, and it goes into the. I think this is interesting because it goes into the whole armor of God. And as a kid growing up in the Assemblies of God, we talked a lot of. I actually had a plastic toy set that was the armor of God and had all the names and all the things and stuff. Strangely enough, it did not come with shoes, because the people who made it probably thought that was too hippie, and I'll explain to you why now. But it goes, therefore, take up the whole armor of God so that you may be able to withstand the evil day, and having done everything to stand firm. Stand therefore and fasten the belt of truth around your waist, and put on the breastplate of righteousness, which is just right living. As shoes for your feet, this is what really gets me. As shoes for your feet, put on whatever will make you ready to proclaim the gospel of peace. I love that it's not like put on metal sandals. Get yourself a pair of, basically it's saying like, get yourself a pair of running shoes. Because what's going to, or whatever it will take for you to make you ready to proclaim this gospel of peace. Then again, we have peace. You have righteousness, which is just saying like, this isn't right. War is not the answer. Killing other people isn't the answer, especially with this casualties is not. This isn't the right thing to do. We got to do something about this. We can't at least not support it. At least an arms embargo. Anything. Which would seem like a moot point if they did that now, because they just sent 20 million. And I think before that they spent like 20 billion, and before that they sent 3.5 billion just like a month earlier. So that's what we're looking at. But our call is to put on those shoes so we can become peacemakers. We used to have this shirt, it's a purveyor of peace. And it was just kind of a thing that we had, like, blessed are the peacemakers. And I was like, well, could we just put blessed are the peacemakers? And then the guy was like, oh, let's do purveyors of peace. Let's do something a little bit different. Let's not do that spot on. And it had like the hippie hands with the peace symbol. And that was kind of a good faith thing. That was the kind of thing of just saying, like, hey, we believe in peace. We believe in settling things peacefully. But now it's literally like, are we running to create peace? Are we fighting for true peace? A peace that's with justice, a peace that would eventually run into two groups coming together and recognizing the other's right to exist. Not an easy state. I mean, like I said, it took John Hume and a lot of people with John Hume 30 years to find peace in Northern Ireland. But the government and the world and the system wants to tell us that this is just a dream. Like, this is just like kumbaya, and you know, and that's whatever. But I have hope, and hope has action in it. Hope is strong in a time like this when everyone else is hopeless, and you're saying, no, I will not accept that. I may lose my hope from that. I may not get what I want, but I will not give up hope. And if anybody knows me, I'm probably one of the world's biggest pessimists, kind of a Debbie Downer. You know, I'm like that donkey on Winnie the Pooh, Igor. But this is, in my work, I'm very passionate about it. And I'm very passionate about not seeing people suffer. And I could say, like, what's happening in Gaza makes legalism look like child's play. You know, it makes them look like your children are having an argument, you know. But unfortunately, when legalism gets in far enough, it starts to support things like this. It starts to think that some reason, like, well, we have to support the Israeli government. You know, a lot of conservatives that I grew up with thought, you know, oh, we support Israel, but they didn't really support people in Israel or the Jewish people. But it was almost like a manipulation of, like, we're going to figure out how to get Jesus back, how to make that red calf, and how to do all this stuff. And it was very manipulative. It was like friendship evangelism. And but we have to speak out justice even when it's not popular, no matter who's doing the injustice. You know, we have to be willing to speak truth to those that, especially those we love and we care and that we're connected with. It's vital. And so we are called to the gospel of peace. We are called to love our enemies. We are called to protect the least of these. We are called to protect the little ones. And to be very clear to what happens to those who cause little ones to stumble and die and lose hope and lose lives and lose families. I'm going to jump back to Matthew. And I'll say what, this is probably not one of my best talks, but it's probably one of my most important talks. Maybe my most important talk. So that's what I want to remind you. This isn't about me. Oh, he sounds, you know, he sounds a little uncomfortable. He sounds tired. I am. I'm exhausted. I'm beat. I'm not sleeping. I'm dealing with depression. Living life just like everybody else, trying to make my ends meet, you know. But right now, this is vital. Matthew 5:9 says, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God." We must hear the call. We die as the culture we were told we live in dies if we lose our principles. And it seems like we are slowly losing our principles. We are losing the basic things of what it's like to be humanity, to love our neighbor as ourselves. Remember in 1 John it says, you know, how can I love a God I can't see if I can't love the people I can see? And that God is love, you know. And when we talked about James a few weeks ago, you know, faith without works is dead. If you walk by and you see someone suffering, you're like, oh, stay hungry. You know, no, I mean, stay hungry, and they're starving and they're naked, and they go, "Oh, eat well, take care of yourself, stay warm, gotta go." Like if we ignore this, our faith is dead to humanity. You know, I always heard that as like, you're going to go to hell, but that's not it. As you're going to just allow people to live in hell. And right now we see people living in hell. I mean, literally brimstone and fire and death and horror and torture. I've always thought the idea of that horror of hell was more of a literal thing here on earth, especially when you consider the context of the Bible being written to people who are living in an occupied territory. You know, when Christians were suffering, they weren't being told that they, were dumb or not cool or things like that. They were being burned, burned alive, and would be used in, in like parties, literally as light. They were fed to dogs. They were stoned to death. That was the reality of what these people were going through. So I think if you're able to really look at hell in that concept as well of what these folks were living in, and also the hope that one day they would receive justice, because there seemed to be no justice. And what I'm saying is maybe we can be the least somewhat the voice of justice. Our country has gone way too far and crossed the line, and we must be voices of justice, voices of peace, just voices of humanity, for Christ's sake. And so the choices I've made in my life, I have to say something, and I hope that you will say something too. That we will remember that silence, it's not the words of our enemies, remember, but the silence of our friends. And maybe these folks need to know that you have people who love you and support you, and we repent and ask forgiveness for what we've done. And not that only that we've been silent, but that we've allowed our government to support this. I'll end it here. One, I ask you, if genocide is not an issue, what have we become? Are we allowing fear for our own lives to become blind to the hell of others' lives? One. It reminds me when Dr. King says, I can't be what I am, I can't be free if you're not free. I can't be at peace if you're not at peace. If you don't have justice, can't live in justice. Like this is something that we all have to do. This isn't just something like, oh, I got justice. All right, I'll just take my drink and sit in my ivory tower. So I'm going to end again with what I started with, and that is the words of John Hume. All conflict is about difference, whether the difference is race, religion, or nationality. Difference is the essence of humanity. Difference is an accident of birth, and should therefore never be the source of hatred and conflict. John Hume. So today, I would ask all of you to let your voices be heard, and maybe remind your friends that, yes, this is a heated political system, but right now we are desperate for peace and justice, and maybe start the conversation of what an arms embargo would look like, and how we can support that, and how we can speak truth to our leaders, and how we, the people, can lead. So maybe the followers, or maybe the leaders will follow. So that's the word for today. Like I said, not one of my best talks, but maybe one of my most important talks. Thanks everybody for being here today. I feel it. That's why I do these talks. That's why I do this work, is because I feel it. Maybe I feel it too much, It's like, take a break. Relax, man. But that's what inspires me to get up every day and speak about these type of things. So thank you for allowing me to do that. And we are only able to do this with your support. And I don't even like to, me, I'm not a big asker, but you can go to revolutionchurch.com and support us and support this work and continue this work. And we will continue to raise our voices and continue to find more constructive ways to face injustice and bring peace and justice and hard conversations with a lot of grace and a lot of love and a lot of compassion, but we will do our best to love our enemies and love the least of these. And your support really makes these voices and makes my voice and makes this work possible. I'll give you a little update. I did send a message to Reverend Barber's, the co-writer, and I'm trying to set up a meeting with him, so hopefully I can meet with Reverend Barber and maybe get more involved in these different civil rights issues and social justice issues, and do it in a different and unique way, because I feel like there's got to be a different way. A part of that is of course the nonviolence. I think is the best way to go about it, and have those conversations, and how we can bring a little bit of revolutions ideas and stuff, which really does come from social justice, but maybe some of our little nuances and quirks to that movement, and be a part of that. So always trying to move this work forward and make this work concrete. Thank you all so much. Love you all. I will see you next week. Check in with me on Instagram. I'll put up a few little things here and there over the week, and I'll see you next Sunday. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed this podcast. To make your 100% tax-deductible donation today, please visit revolutionchurch.com/donate. You can also learn more by clicking the donate section on the website.